chambers at Brainerd City Hall. Now I'll call to order the September 21st Brainerd City Council meeting. We'll start with roll call.
Stunek.
Here.
Pritchett.
Here.
Bevins.
Here.
W. Erickson.
Here.
T. Erickson.
Here.
Lambert.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
And Badeau.
Here.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, that brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the agenda. Looking for a motion.
So moved. Second.
A motion by Bevins, a second by Wayne Erickson to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Is Jan just on the phone, not on video?
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Pritchett.
in personnel and finance, we want to switch numbers 1 and 6.
Okay, so we'll make those changes, switching 1 and 6 on P and F. Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, motion carries. Next up is the
Mr. Chair?
consent calendar. Notice to
Mr.
public, all matters listed are considered routine by the council and will all be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the council votes on the motion to be adopted by roll call.
Mr. President,
Alderman Pritchett.
I'm just wondering if we're going to get any video of this meeting. I'm getting gray screens.
Sean.
There we go. Thank you.
Yep. Looking for a motion on the consent.
Move to adopt the consent calendar. Second.
We have a motion by
Lambert, second.
Bevins, second by Tad Erickson to adopt the consent calendar. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
Erickson. W.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Next up is item number 6. We have 3 presentations tonight. 6A is a presentation by the Evergreen Cemetery Board. Please step up to, well, the one podium over here, please. State your name and address and let us hear what you have.
My name is Dwayne Blank. I'm currently the president of the Evergreen Cemetery Association, and I have with me one of our trustees, Fred Casey, who, along with 7 other trustees, are responsible for the Evergreen Association. Mayor and councilors, we thank you for allowing us to make a presentation to you. We had an open house, so to speak, with a tour the end of August, and the mayor and your administrator were able to make that get together, and they suggested that we make the same presentation to the council. So we're here this evening to do that. I know that Ms. Bergman advised me that you received a packet of information and also a brochure from one of our recent history walks. I'm not going to read the same thing. I assume that you have looked some of that over. So we'd like to summarize a little bit about the overall operation of Evergreen Cemetery, the fact that we're facing some difficult times, and to bring that to your attention so that you're aware of it. But what is the Evergreen Association? It's composed of 2 cemeteries. Evergreen Cemetery within the city limits of Brainerd in northeast Brainerd, the end of 3rd Avenue as such. And then Memorial Garden located just out north of town on County Road 3 beyond the Mississippi River Bridge. Evergreen in Brainerd has been around for 141 years. It was first burials go back to 1873. But it was chartered in 1879 and has operated efficiently as such ever since then. Started out with 15 acres. We now have about a little over 40 acres. which has been all platted and laid out for grave sites. We have in excess of 17,000 remains at Evergreen. The other cemetery, Memorial Gardens, is somewhat the new cemetery, and it has an interesting history in that in the 1950s and early 60s, it was developed as a for-profit cemetery. And after about 10 years, the developers disappeared. And those that had invested in it were kind of stuck hanging. They created a new association, and then through special legislation in the 1970s, it was merged with the Evergreen Association. There's about 25 acres at Memorial Gardens, just north of town. About half of it has been laid out or platted into graves or burial sites. And about 5 years ago, we proceeded with developing a master plan for future development of Memorial Gardens as needed. So the association is responsible for a little more than 20,000 remains, 65 acres of grounds to maintain, as well as other amenities associated with the cemetery operation. In addition to the charter, our operations are controlled by Minnesota statute, particularly Chapter 306. And also the portions of that statute that focus on a nonprofit public cemetery. As a nonprofit, we receive no resources from city, county, state, or federal governmental units. So during these past 141 years, we've operated successfully without relying on tax dollars. That nonprofit public cemetery nomenclature means that we cannot in any way, shape, or form discriminate in terms of who can be buried within our cemeteries. You may be aware in some parts of the state, there's the Lutheran cemetery on one side of the road and the Catholic cemetery on the other side of the road. That's not the case at Evergreen or Memorial Garden. So it's a unique situation for us. Being nonprofit, all of the board members, there are 9 of us, that receive no compensation. We are all volunteers in operating the cemetery. Just quickly to name off the board, in addition to myself as president, John Bader, another Brainerd name of the past as such, with several of the Bader family being involved in private business. Gary Bluth, a recently retired partner of the Cummett Larson Bluth CPA firm. And of course, we recruited him to become our treasurer real quick like. John Van Essen of the Van Essen family, Van's Cafe, if you're all familiar with that. Fred Casey, already introduced him. Denise Blackwell Kraft, Tom Fitzpatrick, Susan Coring, and Terry Thorkelson make up the board members. The staff is quite small. We have a full-time superintendent. His name is Rusty Billman. He's a 30-year employee with the cemetery and has announced his retirement at the end of this year. We have a part-time, half-time executive director. Her name is Dee Dee Tollefson. And then we have 2 seasonal workers at the present time. We've had to really adjust our staffing to in line with our income and the changes that are going on. We do have a significant perpetual care fund. Unfortunately, statute restricts us to using only the income off of that. And as you all know, investments do not pay significant interest rates these days. And so that income, although it's important, is not significant to our overall operation. Our resources, our income depend on lot sales and opening and closing a grave. Those are both down, and I'll explain that in a minute. We do have some income from monument and marker placement, perpetual care, as I mentioned. And what's becoming more and more important is donations from the community. What's really changing in the funeral business and the cemetery business is a cultural change that we're experiencing, and that is cremation. Cremation is having a considerable effect on not only cemetery business, but the funeral industry as a whole. And it, excuse me, the change apparently is a little more obvious in Minnesota, but right now the statistics are pointing out that up to 75% of deaths result in cremation. And unfortunately, of the 75% of cremations, only about 25% are being buried, the ashes being buried in the cemetery. Other venues now are available, as you might well know, columbariums within churches. There's scattering gardens at churchyards. Maybe Grandpa's ashes are only being scattered on his famous or his favorite fishing lake. At any rate, people are finding different venues, so to speak, to deal with the cremains. Another impact that we have close by is the veteran cemetery at Camp Ripley. Not that we're opposed to that. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, so I'm not opposed to veteran cemeteries. But it is kind of a almost unfair competition for us, because veterans can go there at no cost. We know of families who had previously purchased grave sites at Evergreen, but when Dad died as a veteran, they go to Camp Ripley because there's no expense to them. Cremation is the biggest impact on what's happening with cemetery business. In the packet of information that we provided to you, there was a graph attached of burials and graves sales. Since 1995 to 2019, or the last 25 years, we've gone from 160 burials per year to 80 burials per year. Well, that means less grave purchases are sold, and that's the primary source of income, selling a grave site. The second major source is the opening and closing of a grave. So we have half as many burials. We obviously have half as much revenue coming in. And yet maintenance of the grounds continues. The service is still there for people planning end times. We serve also as a source of genealogy information. And so the struggle continues for us in operating the cemetery. In addition, in the packet was a spreadsheet that Gary Bluth put together for us in terms of the fact that he recognized we were dealing with deficit budgeting. How long can that continue? Gary's question was. And he put the information together that was in your packet. Sometime by 2023 or soon thereafter, we will be in default situations if things continue as they are. If there's changes that we don't foresee, that's a positive. But the financial information that we've analyzed and the trend in burials suggests that the future is a little bit bleak for us. We've tried to address that fact by adjusting operations. We have reduced staffing considerably. The other thing that has occurred is the fact that we've had to defer maintenance. Fortunately, some of the major maintenance issues have been able to be addressed through generous donations from the community. Former Mayor Cumberland, as an example, in her estate left a sizable amount for the cemetery. Others have done similarly in recent years. That's been extremely helpful. What we've done though in the practice of the cemetery is we've allowed additional burials on existing burials. In other words, if a family has a plot and grandma and grandpa or the folks were buried in a traditional burial, casket burial, we allow the placement of cremains on top of that. We're up to now saying 3 burials per grave site. It extends the life of the cemetery, it reduces the cost to the family of a burial site. There's a fee to do that, but you don't have to buy a lot. So it does those 2 things particularly: extends the life of the cemetery, extends the life of a family plot, and it continues to encourage people to bury ashes at Evergreen and rather than someplace else. Kind of the bottom line, and Ms. Bergman said, tell the council what you're asking for. What we're asking for is your attention and your understanding of what's going on with a major operation within your city limits. We think that Evergreen Cemetery in Brainerd is one of the outstanding outstate cemeteries. There's a legacy there that's important to the community. Many interesting things can be found in the cemetery. Former Governor C. Elmer Anderson has a unique monument in the shape of the state of Minnesota. He served, of course, as mayor of Brainerd, mayor of Nisswa, following his service as state governor. There's other unique monuments in the cemetery, and history of Brainerd just kind of overflows when you walk through the cemetery and look at the names on monuments. So to maintain our legacy, our what we have now in place, it appears to us that eventually we're going to need to ask specifically for financial assistance. What that amount is at this point, we don't know. But as we look at projected budgets and the information that we provided, it could be anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 a year. But right now, we want you to just simply understand that the cemetery is facing some difficult times in the future and continuing to operate and provide the service to the community that we are. Fred, you want to say a couple words?
As Dwayne said, I'm Fred Casey. I have grandparents that are buried at Evergreen. I have great-grandparents that are buried at Evergreen. My parents are buried at Memorial Gardens. I have a personal concern for what's going to happen with the cemeteries in the future. In terms of an ask, personally, what I'd like to see happen is I'd like to see the council either designate one of their council members or perhaps a committee who would be willing to work with us and look at our situation and hopefully work with a similar person or group from the county board that would have an interest in seeing that these situations are addressed. Evergreen Cemetery and Memorial Gardens, I think, are a significant asset, both from a historical and a personal standpoint, and something that I think we all should want to see maintained in the future. I want you to know, and I want the public to know, that we as a board of trustees have done everything that we can to act in a fiscally responsible manner to keep the cemetery operating as best we can. There are things that we would like to do that we can't do, but we can keep the cemetery operating. And, but at some point in the future, unless there's a change that we do not foresee, we're going to be asking for financial assistance. So, my request would be that perhaps the council either appoint someone or a committee who would be willing to sit down with us and look at the future 2 to 3 years down the line.
All right.
Any questions that you may have, we'd be happy to answer your questions.
Have you presented to the county board yet?
Not as a whole. Commissioner Barrows was in attendance at our August 26th meeting tour, and I have had a conversation with Administrator Tim Hool, and we are scheduled for later, early October, I think it is, a meeting of the whole of the county board.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think getting somebody or a couple people from the city together with the cemetery and the county to kind of put together a plan of how we're gonna deal with this together over the next number of years is a good idea, and I think that's something we should do, because it looks like you're short $40,000 a year if nothing changes, and you don't seem to be very optimistic that things are going to change. So we should probably get together, the city and the county, the cemetery, and figure this out sooner than later.
Yeah, I did indicate in the packet of information, we're not alone. This situation is occurring throughout the state, and the best example we have of a recent solution is down in Nobles and Worthington. The city of Worthington and Nobles have entered into a joint powers agreement with the county agreeing to pick up the deficit in their operations so that they can be sustained as such. We've been in touch with legal advice through the Minnesota Association of Cemeteries. It's not an easy transition in any way spelled out in the statutes if the cemetery might default. The solutions have been to sit down and work something out so that we can perpetuate the service that's being provided.
Absolutely. Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just so I can do the math in my head, how full is Evergreen Cemetery?
How full is it?
Is there still lots for sale?
We do not have a lot of product available at Evergreen. That's why we went to this additional burials on existing grave sites. There is some opportunity to create some grave sites as filling has occurred on the ravines and pushing out on the perimeter. There's a lot of cremation sites, 3x3, rather than the 5x10 standard burial sites. But overall, and in general, we say we don't have a lot of product to sell in Evergreen. Now, for whatever reason, years ago, a policy was established to have an above-ground monument. You had to own 4 grave sites. And some families bought 4, and when mom and dad were buried, the other 2 remain empty. The children have no use for them or don't intend to use them, but we've got a real task to try to identify that. We do have a list of graves like that are available for sale by family. Our policy has been we won't buy them back. If they would like to donate them to the cemetery and take a tax write-off, then we would have them to sell. But the other thing that we did about 5 years ago is we went through the legal process of reclaiming grave sites. There is a statute that allows after 60 years of no activity or contact with the owner, you can go through a process of reclaiming those. And we did that a few years ago and probably picked up a couple dozen sites or graves in that way. Cumbersome process, and some of the older records make it difficult to absolutely determine if there's a vacant grave or not, quite frankly. In the newer north end of the cemetery, we've got good control on that. The older portion, the south end of the cemetery, there's discrepancies in some of our records that make it difficult, which you can imagine after 140 years.
Let me ask one more question. Is there a separate columbarium or cremains portion of the?
We have a columbarium at Memorial Gardens.
Right.
We do not have a columbarium at Evergreen. We have looked at the opportunity to install unique shape rather than just a rectangular shape columbarium, say the shape of a cross or the shape of something else in some of the irregular shaped areas of the cemetery. We have a 48 niche columbarium that we built about 6 years ago because we were sensing a demand for that, but it's less than half full. The demand just doesn't seem to be there for columbarium burials at the present time. It's available because there are some, of course, that prefer that. They might go through with cremation, but they don't want to put the ashes in the ground. They put it up above ground in a columbarium. So we've tried to accommodate that and adjust accordingly.
Thank you. And my last question, and it's all related to revenues. Where can we get more money? Just so you get where I'm coming from on these questions. Is there regulations on what you can charge?
I'm sorry.
Can you set your own price?
Regulations on what you can charge. Are there regulations on what you can charge?
How much can you raise?
No, there are no restrictions on fees that we would charge for a gravesite or opening and closing. It becomes a practical restriction in that there are cities around us, as an example, Baxter, Nisswa, Lakeshore, Crosby, Ironton, are all operated by local units of government. And their rates may or may not be as high as ours. And if they allow outside members of the community buried, there's shopping that's going on in terms of burials unless people have a family connection to Evergreen. There are some small church cemeteries as well. Trinity has one out in the Long Lake area, former church site that had a graveyard, is now controlled by Trinity Lutheran. So they become competition. What we've done with the fees that we charge, we have surveyed the cities in central and northern Minnesota, the size of Brainerd, and kind of came up with an average of what they're charging, so that we're in the ballpark as such and not pricing ourselves out of the market.
Thank you, Jim.
Any other questions? Jan or Pritchett, I don't see you, so I need to hear you.
No questions.
Jan?
Jan?
All right, thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you for your time. I appreciate it very much.
Okay, that brings us to 6B, the Bladek presentation. Come on up, Tyler.
Take this off. Got
Yeah.
one here. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, council members, Mr. Mayor. I know he's paying attention up there, so. I wanted to give the council and everyone in the room just an update on our CARES Act relief grant program. The program actually kicked off with August 17th, ran through We closed the application period last Friday, the 18th. The applications were closed actually first thing Saturday morning. Administrator Bergman is passing around a document that's gonna provide the highlights that I will give to you here on the activity through the 5-week process where the applications were being accepted. So we actually received 287 applications. After filtering through them, we drilled down to 247 that were accurate. And what I mean by accurate, we were getting applications from, well, all over the country. So we were getting applications we had applications from the state of Washington, we had them from outside the county, we received a number of duplicate applications, so someone submitting their application, and this happened to us, I know in Brainerd as well, when we were doing the grant program here, is that we had applications that were coming in multiple times. So after going through all of that, we have 247 actual applicants. The total funds requested, $2,328,125. The Brainerd applications, we received, out of the 247, we received 101 Brainerd applications, which is very, very good news. Total funds requested from the Brainerd applications, $899,150. So we know that obviously of the funds allocated from the City of Brainerd CARES Act dollars, it was a total of $400,000, $300,000 to small business relief grants, $100,000 to the nonprofits. So as you can see, that $300,000 is being moved through quite quickly if we approve all of these applications. The county then will come in behind that Brainerd funding and provide the approved application amounts that will fill out the rest of the applications that we will approve. This Friday, 2 county commissioners, Commissioner Coring and Commissioner Barrows, along with Debbie Erickson from the county and myself, will be reviewing applications. As we mentioned in our initial presentation, requesting the Brainerd dollars be pooled with the county. We will allow any council member, mayor that would like to attend the meetings as we go through the applications. It is this Friday, from 1 to 3. I had passed on the information to Administrator Bergman last week, so she has that. She can certainly give that up to all of you. We welcome the feedback. Again, this is the county's money at this point, so the county commissioners will be the ones, obviously, with the ultimate say in approved applications. I just wanted to also provide an update with the nonprofit grants. So they received 87 applications. They have a grand total of $1,125,000 in their pool. They've received $785,000 worth of application funding requests. We do not know, they are going through their books today, so we don't know the exact amount of Brainerd applications on the nonprofit side. We hope to have that midweek. I'll pass that information on to Administrator Bergman when it is available to me. I did want to note that, as you can see in here, with the communities that pooled their funding with the county, as of Friday afternoon, we had $3,690,000 that was allocated to the grant fund pool. Cities included Baxter, Brainerd, Breezy Point, Crosby, Deerwood, Emily, Pequot Lakes, and Nisswa. The townships of Jenkins, Long Lake, and Perry. The county has also heard from Center, Fairfield, Ideal, and Maple Grove townships, along with the city of Cross Lake. They've been in communication with the county. They have not made decisions for these fundings yet. They're still trying to work through what is needed for their communities to respond to the pandemic. So I would imagine that this $3.69 million will grow. I've been contacted by Cross Lake. They indicate that they'll probably be adding another $50,000 to the pool. So I imagine that the next question that we'll have is, with this money that's left over, what are our plans for it? That will be in discussion this Friday as well. So I encourage feedback from those of you that have pooled your money into this. Give us ideas if there's some direction that folks would like to see this go. I imagine we'll open up another round. That seems to be the most logical. We currently have the employee cap limit set at 50 employees. I would imagine we'll open that up. There are some businesses, such as our larger resorts in the county, that have more than 50 employees. So that's another area that we could look at. We did add in those businesses that were affected by Executive Order 20-09 to the eligible applicants. That particular executive order includes all of our dental practices. So when we were going through the applications, we received about 20 to 22, I think, is the total that we received for our dental practices in the county. Obviously, they were very significantly impacted. So they have been pulled into this list along with, we're looking at any of our chiropractors and other services that were forced to be shut down by different executive orders. So we are opening it up. We're trying to decide what's gonna make the most sense moving forward with this. And again, the county has to have this money dispersed by the 1st of December. What they've been telling me to this point is they expect to have the money in the hands of those eligible applicants sometime in November. So if we open this up again, we'll have to have another pretty quick turnaround, have to have, you know, applications reviewed and approved in a pretty short order. So, does anybody have any questions for me? Obviously, this is taking up a lot of our time right now. I'm also excited that the project that you'll be hearing about in a few minutes, we've been involved with working with Anderson Brothers, so we're excited about that as well. So, and excited to get some activity out in obviously in the industrial park.
So I know you said no decisions have been made yet, but there appears to be $1.5 million roughly that is unspent. If you're opening up a second round and say you raise the cap number of employees, I doubt that gets you to $1.5 million.
Agreed.
Right, so you open it up to another 50 businesses?
With that number, increasing the employee count?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably, if we stick with the executive orders that allowed for essential and non-essential businesses, it'll probably allow us to bring in, I'm thinking maybe 25. That's just we have about 125 businesses in Crow Wing County that have 50 or more employees. And as we know that the ratio between who was essential and non-essential was a 72 to 28. So 28% of our businesses in Crow Wing County were deemed non-essential, therefore having their doors shut. So that other 72% are a lot of our larger manufacturers, so their doors were open. So that's just one place that I think was a first.
And even resorts were never shut down. They were allowed to be open for essential travel.
They were. So that's it. We're running into, I think, what's gonna be a pretty interesting discussion. And again, I'm not holding on to anything. I think we should be open to every possible scenario, because the last thing they want to do, and anybody wants to do, is give this money back. So
Right.
we're going to do our very best to make sure that it gets out, but we're going to be open to everything.
Yeah, would you consider just increasing the grant amount from 10,000 for the eligible businesses that were shut down for months?
That has been discussed. I haven't heard the county's response to that yet. That's also in the list of questions, or opening up the pool a little bit larger that's been on the table.
Thank you. Kelly?
Tyler, just going back to the executive orders and who is eligible, was that a decision that was made on the county board side, or did that come with the money, that you had to be closed to be eligible for this money?
That came on the county, that came from the county.
Got it.
Those were baselines that we reviewed about 18 different counties' grant application processes. There was a consistency across the board that those were the two that were impacted. Those two executive orders impacted the most businesses, so that's where they went with that decision to make those two the initial executive orders that would be considered to make our businesses eligible.
My suggestion would be to not raise the grant limit, because now everybody who's applied up to this point would in essence have to reapply for the additional funding. But if I would put the argument out that there was many businesses that were open that were impacted greater with having to stay open.
Absolutely.
And I phrased it that way on purpose. With having to stay open, it costs a lot of money. And I realize that that this grant money is not to recover lost revenue, correct?
Correct.
So, I mean, it's just,
Yeah, that's where the parameters were set pretty narrowly with
Right.
from the federal government in regards to what's eligible, and that's where that revenue piece
Yep.
has certainly become challenging. And as I've been reviewing the applications, 30%, 40% of them have listed, even in eligible businesses are talking about loss of revenue, but,
Right.
having discussions with them saying it is expense related, it is not revenue related, so that's it's gonna be challenging to figure out how to get
I
rid of
can
it.
imagine
Yeah.
that 1.6 million may actually go up.
I
Thank you,
think
thank
it'll go up a bit more.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Alderman Pritchett or Lambert?
None for me.
Thanks, Tyler.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
6C, introduction of the HRA Executive Director.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Eric Charpentier. I think we give our address right, 441 Tyrell Drive in Brainerd. Council President Johnson, Mayor Bedeau, City Councilors, thank you for giving me the opportunity to take a couple of minutes just to introduce myself and present our agency's levy request for 2021. A little bit of background about myself. I'm a local kid, born and raised in Brainerd, lifelong resident of the community. I'm a product of the Brainerd school system, which I'm very proud of, and was fortunate enough to participate in many activities throughout the Parks and Rec, through community ed, and had a great time growing up here. I have a lot of pride in this area and a city that I continue to call home. For the past 13 years, I've worked in the banking industry. During that time, I volunteered for a lot of committees, such as, committees and organizations such as the Brainerd JCs, the Brainerd Unified Fund, the Cuyuna Range Economic Development Corp., Lakes Area Habitat for Humanity, and I was also served as a commissioner for the Brainerd HRA. I have some very large shoes to fill coming over to the HRA as well as I transition to this new role. It's a great honor, and I'm proud to lead such a hardworking team that are dedicated to providing affordable housing and redevelopment opportunities to strengthen our neighborhoods and our community. In your packets, included in the 2021 preliminary levy, you'll find a highlight of what we have been working on during the past 12 months and what our levy dollars go towards for our programs. A few examples of our ongoing initiatives are the continued development in Brainerd Oaks, Serene Pines, and Del Mar Estates, with construction continuing, and where 67 out of the 111 lots available have either been sold to a developer or sold to an end-user home buyer. It's a pretty cool stat. We continue to work with the county as well as with developers in utilizing the tax forfeit property policy to encourage development with the intent on getting these parcels back onto the tax rolls. Utilization of this policy was further encouraged through the findings of a recent workforce housing study that was partnered with the Crow Wing County HRA. We also continue to look for redevelopment and rehabilitation opportunities, utilizing the Small Cities Development Grants to encourage owner-occupied and renter-occupied rehab throughout the city. Our most recent grant that was awarded to us was for just under $650,000 for rehab in Northeast Brainerd. That rehab project is continuing, and we look forward to utilizing this program in future years. Our levy request for 2021 is set at 0.0185%, which is the maximum allowed by state statute for the Brainerd HRA. This represents an increase of approximately $6,100 over last year's levy, and our request represents less than 5% of our overall budget. But these dollars do allow us to continue to provide affordable housing for approximately 900 Brainerd residents and assist in the rehab and redevelopment needs in the city. We do humbly request that you adopt and authorize our full levy request in the upcoming budget. That being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions about me, about the agency that I can talk about, if you do have any at this time.
Thank you, Eric. Any questions? Comments about the HRA. I'm confident you'll do a fantastic job. We're really excited. I'm the liaison over there, and everybody on the commission and everybody on staff is really excited to have Eric on board. Alderman Pritchett or Lambert?
No questions.
No questions.
Thank you. Thank you,
everybody.
Eric.
Appreciate it.
That brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is item 7, council committee reports. Today we'll start with the Personnel and Finance Committee. Alderman Pritchett.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. We have 6 items on our agenda, and we'll start out with the new number 1, which is Anderson Brothers construction request to purchase industrial lots. All right, so I'll start with the motion, and then we can talk about that. The motion coming out of committee is to support the sale of the remaining 13 lots of Phase 4 in the industrial park, and to convey the following lots to the EDA for sale. Lot 1, 7, and 8. Block 1, Lot 1, Block 2, Lot 1, Block 3, Lots 1 through 4, Block 4, Lots 1 through 4, Block 5, all in Brainerd Industrial Park, First Edition, Crow Wing County, Minnesota, and I so move.
And second.
We have a motion by Alderman Pritchett, a second by Tad Erickson. Alderman Pritchett.
All right, Mr. Chair, basically they submitted a request to the EDA to purchase the 13 remaining lots in the industrial park. This would result in a relocation of 10 employees to Brainerd. Basically, the EDA met on the 17th and voted unanimously to recommend the sale for $1 an acre. Since then, Anderson Brothers is no longer seeking to waive the development fees. Some of the advantages of conveying the land back to EDA has the right of reverter, which means if for some reason Anderson Brothers doesn't fulfill their end of the contract, EDA can reclaim and resell the land. Basically, if we were to try to do, we don't know if it's TIF eligible because they're building an office building. Tax abatement, the county and school district might not participate. Not sure if EDA can do tax abatement, and then it'd be a question as to where the funds would go. Under this current form, the funds would go into the general fund, we'd get the money sooner, and it would most likely lower our tax rate. And there are gentlemen from Anderson Brothers here to speak if they have anything that they would wish to add, if you would entertain that.
Good evening. I'm Terry McFarland, President and CEO of Anderson Brothers. With me, I have Bill Pockton. He's Vice President of our Corporate Affairs. This year will be 80 years of operations for Anderson Brothers Construction. 2019, we had open discussions, there are plenty of discussions in regards to facilities. Some of those goals were to get easier access to our facilities, and we're currently located on 210. For our business, we're not looking for traffic count. It makes it more difficult and unsafe for us to get in and out of our locations. Our maintenance facilities, where we work on our equipment, we've grown that by the number of equipment and both the size of equipment. Same with our office facilities, we are maxed out. So we're looking to, as this opportunity came, we got with Tyler from Bladek and city staff to see how we could proceed. This seemed like a very logical location for us. It provides safe egress to the location. It puts us closer to a lot of our vendors out in that location that we currently do business with. This would just provide us with an anchor moving forward for our next generations with the company, continue that growth pattern, and we prefer to do that in Brainerd. So I would open up any questions you may have as the material I provided in the past.
Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, this is Lambert.
Alderman Lambert.
I'm just wondering, what is going to be the facility that's on 210? What is that going to become?
Yes.
I know it's up there. I'm just curious.
That question was asked of us before. Anderson Brothers Construction does not own that property or its facilities. We lease that properties from another company.
Okay.
So that we would not determine what happens with that property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you. So we have a motion and a second to support the sale of the remaining 13 lots of Phase 4. Transfer them to the EDA for sale. Any discussion? Any discussion? I'll just say I'm on the EDA along with Wayne and Kelly, and Kelly skipped the meeting on Thursday, but Wayne and I were there, and we unanimously approved it, and this is a real exciting opportunity for a growing generational Brainerd business to stay in Brainerd and continue to grow for hopefully another 80 years, and it's just real exciting to see this happen. I think that was the general consensus out of EDA. But hearing no other discussion, we will vote on the motion by roll call.
Stunek,
Yes.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Bevins,
Yes.
W. Erickson,
Yes.
T. Erickson,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. That motion carries. Alderman Pritchett.
All right, thank you very much. On to item number 2, which is record management tech resignation and request to hire. Motion coming out of committee is to accept record management tech Dixie Sanborn's resignation with regret and authorize filling the vacancy, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Stunek to accept with regret and request to hire. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek,
Yes.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Bevins,
Yes.
W. Erickson,
Yes.
T. Erickson,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes, motion carries. Alderman Pritchett.
All right, that takes us to item number 3, which is funding for the DDA Human Resources to conduct the police chief search. And the motion coming out of committee is authorize funding for DDA to conduct our police chief search as proposed, and I so move.
Second.
A motion by Pritchett, a second by Tad Erickson to authorize the hiring of DDA Human Resources to conduct the police chief search. Any discussion?
Just a little bit of background. Civil Service Commission met on September 14th. Basically, and approved to retain David Drown Associates to conduct the police chief search contingent on city identifying to pay the funds for the consultant. So the total cost would be $19,000. Sourcewell, since they have contract with DDA, would pay $7,500 of that. The advertising cost anyway would cost $2,000. So the cost of hiring DDA would be $9,500. Basically, the timeline goes to the end of January that they have proposed, and Chief McQuiston would extend his retirement date to shorten the gap. The staff looked at doing this themselves, but looking at the current social climate, transparency, and the high level of visibility for this position, they felt that they wanted to look elsewhere. The City of Bouquet also hired outside to be able to do this search, and that's kind of what they felt was confident.
Okay, I have a process question. Does the Civil Service Commission do the interviewing and hiring of a police chief, or is the City Council?
The Civil Service Commission creates an eligibility list. So they will create a list, they will certify the top 3 applicants to the mayor and council for hiring consideration. So they do conduct the interviews to get to that top 3 scores. You can pick any of the top 3. You do not have to pick the top person.
We can pick any of the top 3, but we are not in on the interviews and presumably will not know anything about any of the 3 other than their names and ranking.
So at the Civil Service Commission, I had actually asked the mayor to attend, and one of the things we've asked the commission is if they would consider allowing those interviews to be like an open meeting, kind of similar to what we did for our city administrator position, so that people, the public could be there, the council members could be there. It would have to be a noticed meeting in order for that to happen. The Civil Service Commission, we're hoping they can meet again on Friday, and we'll learn a little bit more on what they want to do with that process.
Okay. And Alderman Pritchett, I have one question of you. Did your committee discuss DDA's success rate in working with the city of Brainerd over the last 10 years?
Yeah, I basically felt that we're familiar with the process. The process was good. I thought the level of candidates was also acceptable. Actually, pretty good.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek,
Yes.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Bevins,
Yes.
W. Erickson,
Yes.
T. Erickson,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Alderman Pritchett.
All right, thank you. That takes us to item number 4, which is zoning code update consultant selection. And motion coming out of committee is contract with Swanson Hascam Consulting to perform a comprehensive update of the zoning code for an amount not to exceed $90,000 and authorize the city administrator to accept the contract when it's given, and I so move.
Second.
A motion by Pritchett, a second by Stunek. Any discussion?
Just to kind of let you know, basically in July, we approved RFPs for consultants to update the zoning codes. There were 8 proposals deep in. Planning Commission interviewed 6 of them. On the 16th, they voted unanimously to recommend the Swanson Hanscamp proposal. They've got about a 14-month timeline, so they kind of fit with what Mr. Chansky's goals were, so they could enact this by January 1st, 2022, if they follow along that timeline.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Chair, Mrs. Lambert,
Sharon?
I just want to say, we had very excellent candidates, so it was kind of a difficult decision. But as a planning commission, we did feel that this would be the best one that would best fit for us. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Aye.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Alderman Pritchett.
All right, that takes us to number 5, which is civil attorney contract renewal. And motion coming out of committee is to authorize staff to enter into an agreement with Ratwick, Roswick, and Maloney for 2021 and 2022, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. President, the contract with Ratwick, Roswick, and Maloney expires on the 31st, 2020. Staff feels that we've had good service. We're in the middle of a couple of cases right now. And then looking at the fiscal side of it, the proposal has no changes for 2021. And in 2022, there'd be an increase of $5 an hour and an increase of $2,000 in the repayment.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, motion carries. Alderman Pritchett.
All right, and that brings us to our last one, item number 6, approval of bill payment. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the payment of the bills. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. President. End of report.
Thank you, Alderman Pritchett. That moves us to item letter B, Safety and Public Works Committee. Alderman Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have 4 items on tonight's agenda. Item number 1 is the event street closure application, Bikers for Kids Kinship Partners Support Event. The motion is to accept staff's recommendation of this application under the conditions that the applicant request traffic control for the event 1 week prior to the event, and that banners and other signage are removed after the event's conclusion, and I so move.
Second. A motion by Bevins, a second by Erickson. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 2 is also an event street closure application for the Visit Brainerd Open House 25-year celebration. The motion is to accept staff's recommendation, approve the attached event application under the conditions that the applicant request traffic control 1 week prior to the event, and I so move.
Lambert, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I just noting that the date and time on this one is October 1st from 4:30 to 6:30 on Laurel Street.
And it's closing Laurel Street from 4:30 to 6:30.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, oh, Paul?
It was just only one lane is what the applicant requested, so there might be one lane of traffic that would be open.
Okay, so it'd probably just be the eastbound lane. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 3 are the 2020 and 2021 snow season downtown snow removal bids. The motion is to accept staff's recommendation and the bids for the 2020-2021 downtown snow removal, awarding the contract to Tom's Backhoe Service, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just for those that can't see our packets, there's a $75,000 budgeted for this service, about 38.5% is based, is assessed to private properties based on front footage. The rest of the cost goes to street and sewer and parking lot funds.
And is $75,000 historical average last few years?
I can answer that. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Yes, we actually did increase that budget here. I think it was 1 or 2 years ago, Connie, if I remember right. Well, she's on virtual, but we did have to increase that budget because of historical snow events that we've had and the increased need of the downtown service.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, motion carries.
And our final item, Mr. Chair, number 4 is improvement 14-05, the old Stonebridge Trail final pay estimate. The motion is to accept staff's recommendation and approve the final payment to Knife River in the total amount of $48,583.80. Of course, subject to the bills and payments which we just approved, and I so move.
Lambert, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just a reminder that there is $20,000 in escrow from the original contractors on this one, and the rest will be assessed.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries.
End of report.
Thank you, Alderman Bevins. That brings us to item number 8 on the agenda, which is unfinished business. 8A is the final reading of proposed ordinance 1510, amending the rural service district.
Mr. President, this is just again the excuse me, the final reading for proposed ordinance number 1510. This does amend the rural service district to add the property listed in your packet owned by Mr. Greg Jelinski, who came before you, I believe, in the beginning of August and requested this. There's 2 actions tonight. First is to conduct the final reading, and then upon a positive vote for that, to then adopt the ordinance.
Okay, I'll take a motion to
Mr.
dispense
Chair, I
with the
move to
action.
hold the final reading of proposed ordinance number 1510
And I'll second it.
And to dispense with the actual
and to
reading.
dispense with the actual reading.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt ordinance number 1510.
Second.
We have a motion by Bevins, a second by Stunek to adopt ordinance number 1510. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. That brings us to 8B, committee recommendations, a recommendation from the mayor tonight.
Oh my gosh. All right, first of all, we're going to take this off, and then I'm going to take my sweet time so that my beard can stretch out. The first recommendation is that the mayor not be set at the kids' table next meeting. Of all the things that COVID has done, placing the mayor at the children's table is the worst. So, I just want to say that we have a committee recommendation of Marie Kirsch for the Economic Development Authority, her term to expire 9/7 of 2021.
For a motion to approve
Move
that.
to approve that recommendation.
Second, Lambert.
We have a motion by Bevins, a second by Tad Erickson to approve the recommendation from the mayor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins?
Yes.
W. Erickson?
Yes.
T. Erickson?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes,
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Mayor Bedell.
All right, this is also the call for applicants. Information is available and the applications are available at City Hall. Sometimes those are hard to find, so if I had a recommendation to staff, could we make it easier for people to find these applications on the website? I know somebody asked me for that, and it took me a minute, and I've been on that website a lot of times. So let's make sure that we figure out some kind of way for it to be a little easier for people to find applications. But they are on the website. The applications I am looking for currently are terms expiring 12/31 of said year. The Cable TV Advisory Committee, 1 term expiring 2021, 2 terms expiring 2022. That seems to be a difficult one to fill. So if you are out there and you are interested in technology, I recommend that you come join us and have a fun time. And the Charter Commission, we are looking for 2 terms expiring 2020. We are also looking for applications for the Water Tower Committee, who will be giving a presentation to you guys at our next meeting, and the Parking Commission, which I believe I have filled, but we haven't got that application in yet, so we are still looking for applications for the Parking Commission as well.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I would just add that when we had our old website back in 2015 or 16 or something, before we upgraded it, everybody thought something, whether it was an application or a comp plan or whatever, was very important and it had to be on the homepage. So the homepage of the website just had like 30 links that really wasn't any more helpful for anybody. So I wouldn't recommend we just start piling up links on the homepage to make things easier to find, because it works in the opposite direction. That brings us to item 9, new business, a resolution accepting the Babe the Blue Ox statue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The Destination Downtown Business Coalition has a statue of Babe the Blue Ox, and they would like to place the statue in the city's right-of-way in downtown Brainerd. Attorney Langle has advised the city to not allow a private owner to put anything into the city's right-of-way. However, the city may accept a donation and place it in its own right-of-way. The chamber is actually the fiscal agent of the Downtown Business Coalition, so they are the owner of the Blue Ox. It is the Downtown Business Coalition's intention to work with the Crossing Arts Alliance and to do a call for artists to repaint Babe the Blue Ox. And so then there would be a committee that would judge the artists, and they did ask at a future time, bringing back to you a council member who would be involved in the judging of that as well. So with that, staff's recommendation is to adopt the resolution accepting Babe the Blue Ox statue from the Brainerd Lakes Area Chamber of Commerce, and that.
Quick
Back to you,
question,
Mr. Chair.
Jennifer, if we accept this and the city owns this Blue Ox, what gives the Downtown Business Coalition or Crossing Arts Alliance the right to paint the ox?
That is a good question, Mr. Chair. I think that the council would have to grant authority to the Downtown Business Coalition to paint said ox.
I think we should have
Thank
that
you,
on the
Mr.
future
Chair.
agenda. I think it's a good idea, but I think it's just something we should authorize if we own it, because otherwise kids might get the idea that they can just go start painting cop cars for us. We don't want that. We want to make sure we allow.
Like one of those rocks.
Yeah.
You know, those fraternity rocks that everybody gets to paint
Yep.
for 15 seconds.
Well, I don't think we just want just anybody painting whatever they want on a Blue Ox downtown. So let's get that on a future agenda. But otherwise, I'm ready for a motion to accept.
Mr.
this
Chair, I
resolution.
move that we adopt a resolution accepting the Babe the Blue Ox statue from the Brainerd Lakes Area Chamber of Commerce.
Pritchett, second.
A motion by Bevins, a second by Pritchett. Any discussion? Because I have one discussion point. As far as judging, Jennifer, you said that want to put together a judging committee and have a city council member. Should we just wait until that's an actual thing?
Yeah, I believe so. And as soon as, I think once they know that they have the statue, then they'll call for artists and put together a committee. I think it might be a couple of months.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion to adopt the resolution?
Mr. Chair,
Kelly?
do you want the painting one next, or do you want to wait?
We can just do that right away,
Why
yeah.
don't we just do it right now?
All right. Hearing no more discussion, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
yes,
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Alderman Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we allow DGBC and the Crossing Arts Alliance to call for artists to paint our new ox, and that we
Lambert.
include a council member on the judging committee.
Lambert, second.
Motion by Bevins, a second by Lambert. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Good thinking, Alderman Bevins. That brings us to 9B, authorize CARES Act funds pooling agreement with Crow Wing County.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. At the August 17th meeting, the City Council did approve the expenditures for the COVID relief funds, the CRF funds. As you heard tonight, the BLADEC has been accepting applications on behalf of the county. The county did allocate $3 million to the Small Business Relief Grant Program and $1 million to the nonprofit program. Eligible businesses and nonprofits can apply for up to $10,000, and you heard Tyler give you an update on the number of applications that were received specifically in the city of Brainerd. The county board did create then a subcommittee to review and approve these grant applications, and as you had mentioned to me, you had requested that you be a part of that. Tyler did inform you when that will be. Once again, just to reiterate, it is on Friday, September 25th from 1 to 3 in the CTC room at the chamber. The nonprofit committee subcommittee will be meeting on Thursday, October 1st from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m., and that's at Crow Wing County, and I will make sure that I forward you the details on that. Attached is the CARES Act funds pooling agreement. As you know, the county had said that if we pool our funds with the county funds, then our Brainerd businesses would be able to access the $3 million that the county has allocated. This pooling agreement draft was reviewed by Attorney Langle, and we did make some changes, and the county did accept our changes. I think one of the things that I really want to point out that the city changed is number 5, that in the event that the county's allocation of funds to subrecipients is deemed ineligible or otherwise in violation of the CARES Act, that the county shall reimburse the municipality an amount that reimbursed owed to the municipality. In other words, if they aren't spending it properly, the county will reimburse us the funds. So I think that was really important to include with that. So with that, staff is recommending that you approve the CARES Act pooling agreement with Crow Wing County. Very timely since you're just hearing the update, at least on the first round. Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'm ready for a motion.
Move to approve the CARES Act funds pooling agreement with Crow Wing County.
Second. We have a motion by Bevins, a second by Wayne Erickson to approve the pooling agreement. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. That brings us to 9C, adoption of the 2021 preliminary levy. This is a holdover from our workshop last Monday. We all have opinions. I'll give it to our Personnel and Finance Chair, Alderman Pritchett, for a motion.
All right. I'd like to move to adopt a resolution setting the preliminary levy for the city and HRA. Do you want to present here?
Yeah.
At 4%.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to set the preliminary levy at a 4% levy increase, which would be an additional $242,898. Any discussion? Well, I'll say I'll vote for this. I mean, it seems fair as a preliminary levy. I would like to see this closer to 0% by the end of December, but as of right now, as a preliminary levy, it's a perfectly fair number. Any other discussion? Mayor Bedeau had something?
Yeah, I would just like to repeat your sentiments as well as that I appreciate the number. I think it's a good starting point, but I also want us to make sure that we are trying to get it as low as possible and that we're actually allocating money to things. Just the idea of having extra money, I'm not usually a huge fan of. You know, let's make sure that we're looking at the budget and having a process for where those funds are going to go.
Thank you, Mayor Bedeau. Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, this is Lambert.
Alderman Lambert.
I think this is a good percentage. I know Mayor Bedeau is going to be presenting with the water tower, and I think it's going to give us some wiggle room if they are asking for funds from the city. So I think it's a good plan.
Thank you, Jan. I would follow up by saying the city has budgeted $300,000 for that water tower to tear it down. And we have that ready to go.
Yeah, I understand that, but possibility they might request more, something as we witnessed with the splash pad.
Mayor Bedell?
I'm looking forward to that.
Just simple comment, we will be presenting to the council at the next meeting. Currently, an ask of funding is not currently in that proposal.
Well, I'll put you on the agenda. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Can we have the dollar amount be listed instead of just a 4% increase?
Yeah, I was trying to find it when I was restating the motion, I just didn't
Yep.
see
I'm
it.
sorry. That would be, I did not set the amount. I apologize.
So the dollar amount, Connie, get out your 10 key. It's 6,072,439 plus 242,898.
Yes, so the total amount is $6,315,337.
Thank you. That's the number we'll put in the blank line there.
Okay.
Okay. Hearing no more discussion, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Stunek voted twice. Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Brings us to 9D, a resolution declaring costs to be assessed, ordering preparation of proposed assessments, and ordering a public hearing on proposed assessment 2020 nuisance abatement in downtown special service
Mr.
district.
President,
Yeah.
did I miss something? Are we supposed to set a motion to
Oh,
set the date?
yep. Thank you, Alderman Pritchett. We need to set a time and date for the budget public hearing. Thank you. Entertaining a motion. Is there a recommendation from Connie or Jennifer on when we should be holding this?
Yes, you can hold it as part of your normal council meeting. The council has normally held a special council meeting, and we've done it so on the second Monday of December, which this year would be December 14th, 2020 at 6 o'clock.
I'll make the motion. To have that be so.
Yeah, we have a motion by
Lambert.
Pritchett, second by Lambert to have it on the second Monday in December at 6 PM. Is that correct?
14th of December, 6 p.m.
Yep.
Correct.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Thank you, Alderman Pritchett. Now we'll move on to the 2020 nuisance abatement in downtown special service district. Is that you, Paul?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. I get to kind of steal the show here for the 5 next items, which all have to deal with declaring the assessed amounts for construction projects and our nuisance abatement downtown special service district. All these public hearings will be on October 19th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. We have a virtual call-in number to the council meeting, depending on if we're virtual at that time or not, but there is a virtual number listed on the resolution. The first resolution you have in front of you tonight is for the downtown special services and nuisance abatement for 2020. The total amount of the improvements for the downtown special services district was $93,748.11, of which we assessed $41,049.07 to adjacent properties. The total cost of 2020 nuisance abatement was $23,710, of which we assessed 100% of that amount of $23,710. And so the motion would be to, staff recommends to adopt the resolution in which declares those costs, orders the preparation of the assessment roll, and orders the public hearing to be held on October 19th at 7:30 p.m. to consider testimony for or against those proposed assessments.
Thank you, Paul. I'm ready for that
So
motion.
moved.
Lambert, second.
We have a motion by Bevan, second by Tad Erickson to adopt the attached resolution. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins?
Yes.
W. Erickson?
Yes.
T. Erickson?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Next resolution, Paul.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The next resolution you have in front of you is assessments related to improvement number 14-05. Once again, the call-in information and the passcode for the meeting are on the resolution. The total cost for this improvement, which include the final lift of asphalt on Old Stonebridge Trail, was $49,704, of which we are assessing $29,704. Of course, that $20,000 escrow is included to bring us up to that total of $49,000. So if there's any questions, basically the same motion as the last one.
So move.
Second.
A motion and second to adopt the attached resolution. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek?
Yes.
Pritchett?
Yes.
Bevins?
Yes.
W. Erickson?
Yes.
T. Erickson?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Next resolution, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So improvement 1910, this project was for the resurfacing of numerous streets in northeast Brainerd, J Street, 11th Avenue Northeast, 10th Avenue Northeast, L Street, O Street, and P Street. Total project cost with engineering and construction was $1,228,021, with a total estimated assessed amount of $255,594. And so this resolution would declare the cost to be assessed, orders the preparation of the assessment, and sets the public hearing on these assessments virtually for October 19th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m.
So moved. We have a motion
Second.
and a second to set the public hearing and adopt the resolution. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek?
Yes.
Pritchett?
Yes.
Bevins?
Yes.
W. Erickson?
Yes.
T. Erickson?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Next resolution, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. President. Improvements 1321, 19-09, and 19-16 were the reconstructions of B Street, 5th Avenue Northeast, and the three mall streets, B, C's, and D streets in Northeast Brainerd during this 2020 construction season. We also had two sidewalk projects that we did that were tied to these that we do not assess for. Those were improvements 1920 and 1921. Our total project costs with engineering and construction were $1,877,358, with a total assessed amount on the resolution of $347,631. Staff recommends that we adopt the attached resolution in which declares those assessed costs, order the preparation of the proposed assessment, and set the public hearing virtually for October 19, 2020 at 7:30 p.m.
Move to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion by Bevin, second by Erickson to adopt the proposed action. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek?
Yes.
Pritchett?
Yes.
Bevins?
Yes.
W. Erickson?
Yes.
T. Erickson?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. And the final resolution for you here, Paul.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. The final resolution in front of you tonight is a project from 2019. Improvement 1609 and 1907 is the reconstruction of Buffalo Hills Lane and Mississippi Drive. Most of this work was completed in 2019. We had some cleanup work this year that we did. Total construction and engineering, $1,854,910. Total estimated assessed amount is $381,817. I invite all the city council members to go and look at that project and what a large difference it made in that area. It's a beautiful road. A lot of people using the trail. It's good to see. So staff recommends that you adopt the attached resolution in which orders the preparation of the proposed assessment, declares the cost to be assessed, and set the public hearing for October 19th virtually at 7:30 p.m.
So move.
A motion by Erickson. Second. And a second by Erickson. Is there any discussion? I have one question. Is the assessed amount at least close to what we estimated the assessed amount to be before the
Yeah,
project?
it's very close. you might see about $100 on average additional on most of the assessments.
Okay,
That's
so
about
they
what we're looking at.
shouldn't pack the phone lines then.
I would hope not, but
Okay.
you never know.
Good, but my favorite neighborhood. I love those people down there, very active citizens when it comes to their taxes. Any other discussion?
I've driven the road many times, it's beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
nice. People are using it, walking all the time.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes,
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Next up is the Planning Commission, and I just want to say, Beaver, we should have just moved you to the top of the agenda like we did Anderson Brothers. You made you sit here
I was gonna say.
all night for your.
Oh,
There you
It's
go.
okay.
man.
That's a citizen.
Mr. President, members of the council, this proposed ordinance we have before you is something that's been kind of working its way through the planning commission. In July, Mr. Steve Zielinski, who's here this evening, submitted a request to the city requesting to construct a greenhouse with the purpose of using it to support the culinary offerings by Yesterday's Gone Bar and Grill, which he owns. At that time, I had the unfortunate duty to deny his request. There's a number of issues with that. The chief amongst was that the B3 district in which Yesterday's Gone sits currently does not allow for greenhouses. So the time submitted, Mr. Zielinski, by denial, gave him some options. Option one is he could obviously appeal my administrative decision to the council, saying I hadn't translated the code right. Or option two was that he could submit a text amendment request to the planning commission, which he did. He came before the planning commission in August to make this request. They discussed it in length and decided that, this isn't necessarily a bad idea, being able to allow businesses to do things to help improve their businesses. Right now he would like to put this greenhouse on a vacant lot that they have across the alley behind Yesterday's Gone. When I looked at it, there really are only about 4 unimproved vacant lots in the B3 district right now. I say I use the unimproved purposefully, no parking lot or anything, they're just dirt. So there's not a lot of lots that this could potentially develop and go on right now. And the planning commission felt like this might be a good opportunity to try something out and see if it works before kind of expanding it potentially to the rest of the community. Upon their consideration, the commission directed myself to research and draft a proposed amendment to section 515-62, which governs B3 district, allowing for commercial greenhouses supporting another business as an interim use. They did choose interim use as opposed to often we familiar with conditional uses. The reason is interim uses, the idea is that it's a shorter time period. It's not necessarily meant to be there forever. You can either put a specific time period on how long that use will be in place, or the idea is also that interim use follows the property owner. A conditional use follows the property. So once a conditional use is granted for a property, it's in there in perpetuity. If the property sells, the next person, assuming they meet all the conditions of that conditional use, can do that exact same use on there without ever having to come and ask for the city. In this situation with an interim use, if Mr. Zielinski would ever stop owning the property, that use would go away, and someone who owns that property, if they wanted to continue it, would have to come get their own interim use. There are 7 conditions listed as adopted by the Planning Commission that pretty much govern how the greenhouse should be constructed, where it can be constructed, talks about storage in and outside of the greenhouse, what kind of businesses it should support, and also talks about if the business that it does support ceases operations, then again, the idea is the greenhouse then be removed, not just be sitting there in perpetuity. The Planning Commission did conduct a public hearing during their regular meeting on September 16th, and then unanimously voted to recommend proposed ordinance number 1511, which is here for you tonight for the first reading. And I'll take any questions that the council has.
Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Jansky, I just want to, on these 7, just clarify, no rooftop greenhouses because they're not on a separate property.
Yes, no rooftop.
And no selling out of the greenhouses.
Correct, yes. Number
Just-
7
those are
says
questions
no.
I-
Yep, we specifically added that number 7 after the commission had reviewed, one of the commissioners brought that up, and we added that 7th in there to ensure that this is really a supporting element. We specifically left the word accessory out, because when we talk about accessory structures, the idea is then it's on the same lot. In this case, we're allowing them to be on a separate lot. We have a distance requirement, but again, the purpose of it is to support another business.
I really like what the planning commission, what you came up with here, David. This is a really good solution to allowing businesses to use greenhouses, restaurants to grow their own produce, or even floral shops to grow their own flowers. I think this is an excellent change to our city ordinances, and I support it. Any other discussion or questions? Like you said, Steve is here if you have any questions of Steve.
Not a question, just to echo kind of what you said. I like the flexibility that the planning commission came up with, and trying to work with the business owner to make it a success, so.
Okay, Jan, you got a motion?
Yes, I do. I make a motion to accept the text amendment.
Second. We have a motion to accept the text amendment and dispense with the first reading of ordinance 1511.
Correct, yeah, so this is the first reading, and then on October 5th will be the final reading and then adoption of the ordinance.
Okay, we had a motion by Lambert, a second by Wayne Erickson. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, and that motion carries. That brings us to item number 11 on the agenda, public forum. Thank you, Steve. Anybody here for public forum? Is there anybody on the phone lines, Sean? No. Anybody here for public forum? Anybody here for public forum? Anybody here for public forum? Seeing nobody come up, we'll move to the next item of the agenda, which is staff reports. Jennifer?
Just a couple of things. First of all, we had our first discussion on the exploring of a public works department. Council President Johnson and Alderman Erickson, and also Park Board President Kara Schaefer and Vice President Kevin Yeager were in attendance. I thought it was a really good discussion. A number of staff people were also there. I don't know, Alderman Johnson or Alderman Erickson, if you had anything you wanted to share?
Yeah, I thought the meeting went really well, and it's, the Parks Board is going to discuss it, they haven't yet, but it does look like we're going to, or the Parks Board may request of us to create an interim Public Works Department and have Paul, our city engineer, be the Public Works Director and manage their maintenance staff for the time being, just as a trial run to see if it works out. So it looks like that will be coming down the pipeline, right, Kevin?
All right, thank you. Also, last week we did have our Employee Appreciation Day. Just wanted to say thanks to the mayor and to council members who were able to attend. I know it meant a lot to staff, and we were able to, or the council actually was able to give out some of our service awards. Last, I really wanted to just share a little bit about, give you a little bit of a COVID update. We are starting to see it start to affect City Hall. We do have a couple of employees who are home as a result, or quarantined as a result of being exposed to a family member that has COVID. We've had a couple who have COVID symptoms, and according to the Minnesota Department of Health guidelines, are also being required to quarantine. So I guess I just wanted to share with the council, we are starting to see that touch our staff a little bit. So with that, Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any other?
Mr. President, this is Jan. I have a question for Jennifer, if I
Yeah,
may.
Jan, go ahead.
Jennifer, if the person is being quarantined, and they had worked from home in the past, are they able to do that under quarantine?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, they'll be set up for it, but they do also have 80 hours. If they're gonna be caretaking for their family, they can choose to take their 80 hours of time and not work, right?
And
It'll be
Mr.
up to
Chair,
them,
I would defer
depending
to-
on the situation.
I would defer to our HR director.
So if they are able to telework, they do not need to use that 80 hours. But if they cannot telework, that 80 hours is available to them, and they can use that anytime between now and the end of the year.
Thank you. Any other, Tyler?
I just want to inform everyone that when we do get through the application process, a full breakdown will be provided to council of the Brainerd businesses that were approved for the grant application.
Good, thank you for, I intended to ask you that, and I didn't. Tyler just updated us saying after all of the grants are awarded, Bladec will be providing us with a complete list of all of the businesses in Brainerd that received it. Paul?
I just wanted to echo what Jennifer said about the Employee Appreciation Day. I know the guys down at the street department really appreciated Gabe and Wayne coming down, especially being members on the Public Works Committee, kind of seeing the facility and seeing how we can possibly integrate the Parks Department in there and seeing their space and what they work with on a daily basis. So that was really good that you guys were able to come down and do that. So.
Good, I learned a lot. I've been on the council for 6 years. It's the first time I've been to the Streets Garage, so I enjoyed it too. I'm gonna hang out there more. It's a pretty cool facility, to be honest.
Maybe they'll let you drive some.
Maybe they'll let me wash my car, but Paul doesn't wash his car.
Chief Stunek in charge of the car wash.
Any other department heads, Chris?
Just a quick update that we had our employee insurance committee meeting last Wednesday. We did receive some initial results for that RFP process. We've got some really good information. We are meeting again on the 28th, and we're hoping to make a recommendation on the 5th. Thank you, Tad, for attending, and I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, by way of update, we had Risk Partners, Adam Olson gave a presentation. I think he kind of did a comparison about like a dozen or so policies up against our existing policy. And I don't know, I had to step out. The meeting went just a little bit over and I had to leave right at 3. But, as you said, there's another meeting, so no action's been taken or anything, but it was nice to see all those policies kind of compare and contrast them against the existing. More to come.
Okay, seeing no other staff reports, look at number 13, lucky number 13, the mayor's report.
That's right, stretching the beard again. I actually have 3 things to talk about tonight. First of all, the Children's Museum Task Force, as I've come to call it, met again this week, working through potential issues that we may have at the various different locations within the park. I will say that after going through everything and kind of looking at potential improvements that the park could see or underutilized areas that the park may have, the overall view of Lum Park is very positive within that group, and that's coming from various different sources from out the community, and it's good to see that. No matter what ends up happening with the Children's Museum, I think that group is going to come out with at least something to present to the council that we can use moving forward. So that's that bit of business. Second bit of business is the Visit Brainerd 25th anniversary. I don't know if you guys got an invitation or not. I got one right here in front of me, but I just wanted to talk about that super fast because I don't know if you've been down to Visit Brainerd and that little store they've got going on down there. They've got some really cool merchandise, and it's a resource that is often utilized. To put my other hat on with Brainerd Community Action, we bounce things off of them often because we get a ton of phone calls that cross paths going back and forth. It's a fantastic group, and their open house is Thursday, October 1st from 4:30 to 6:30, and that will be in front of their Laurel Street business, as was approved earlier with your event street closure. One of the things you can get down there is water tower merchandise, which brings me to my next point. This Thursday, from 5:30 to 8:30 at the Brainerd Legion, we are having a to-go style fundraising dinner. One of the things we wanted to do this year as a group, that everything got shifted around like everybody else, but one of the things we wanted to do was a fundraising dinner. The idea was to have entertainment and have speakers and kind of have a whole night of it. Obviously, that can't happen. So we've decided to go with a to-go style where we're going to have Pit Happens Catering with a catering truck with a drive-through option for people that don't feel comfortable getting out of their vehicle. People who do, we ask that you wear a mask. And there's also a silent auction that will be online that'll be going on throughout the day, I believe starting Wednesday. And then it will continue through the event, which is 5:30 to 8:30, just to remind you, 5:30 to 8:30 on Thursday, September 24th at the American Legion. But we will have items from the silent auction there from 5:30 to 8, so people can actually come and look at them and see the quality of them if they wish. All the bidding, however, will be done online so that people aren't stuck coming inside and having to go back to the item. We don't want people to have to hang around, but we want to be able to do something. And I will say this, that we'll be very happy to present on the next meeting because the amount of businesses that we're willing to donate is very, very positive. So again, September 24th, 5:30 to 8:30, American Legion. You can come get yourself a $20 to-go plate. It is pulled pork sandwiches and or you can choose wings instead, and that will be $20 from Pit Happens. So come down, see me.
What time again?
It's 5:30 to 8:30. And if you're wondering where, once again, that is the Brainerd American Legion. And so we'll be outside in the parking lot and then obviously online with the silent auction at 32auctions.com/water tower.
Are you going to be wearing the water tower costume?
You know, the water tower costume held up fantastic during last year's parade. The glue got a little loose by the end of it. It was about 90 degrees. Inside, it was about 175. And my wonderful COVID body at that point was sweating wonderfully. So I could wear it. I don't recommend being around it. I'm sure it has one heck of a funk to it now.
I think you should wear it. That brings us to item number 14, council member reports. We'll start with our virtual friends. Dave Pritchett.
The only thing I have to report is I'm surviving quarantine. Going a little stir crazy, but not too much. So I feel for everybody else that's in quarantine. Everybody that's been, the effect on me has been pretty minor in comparison to some people. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Alderman Lambert.
Not really anything new, other than I'm going to be in person after this. Feeling very well from my surgery. Thank you.
We are very excited to see you in person, Jan.
The rest of us will all be quarantined at home then. You'll be here alone, Jan.
I got a chair right here warmed up for you, Jan, at the kids' table.
I was honored to be able to be part of the Parks and Rec and the city street departments to award them different employees. That was a neat open house. We just got to see the operation, and it was an enjoyable day. Glad I could be part of it. And I was very encouraged by the Park and Rec board. We get together there to just discuss moving forward. Just a great week last week. We had just learning a lot. That's it.
Thank you, Wayne. Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to add to all the excitement that we're talking about with Parks and Rec, with Memorial Park and splash pads and the Public Works and Lum Park and all that. There's also been some not so good things in our parks. There's been maybe an increase in some vandalism, and I just got to ask people, stop it. Please just stop it. We're putting money into the parks. We're looking at putting more money into the parks. We got to respect the parks. And we can't be spending money that we could be buying this cool stuff with to fix the stuff we've already spent money on. If you see somebody doing something that they shouldn't be, maybe you don't want to get involved, call 911. That's what they're there for. But just please stop it. It's all our responsibilities to keep our eyes open for people who are vandalizing the parks. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. I have nothing to add, other than with that 4% levy increase, we may be able to fix the water fountain if the park board is interested.
That's what I was thinking of. We could put the water tower and the fountain together.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be a cool fountain?
Chad?
Just to reiterate what others have said, I was also honored to hand out the awards at both the fire department and the police department last Wednesday. Other than that, the only thing I was going to give an update on was the employee insurance, which we kind of already talked about. So.
Thank you, Alderman Stunek.
I was at the police station and the fire department too, and boy, did I learn a lot at the fire department.
What were you doing the previous 40 years?
But it was fun. Employees liked it.
Okay, anything else to come before the council? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? We'll vote by roll call.
Stunek.
Yes, for the
Pritchett?
last time.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, we're adjourned.